Okay, this is the design table for an assembly that I'm going to be doing in the lab. And there's two problems that will be done. This is one of them. If you look at my channels, you see that something like that was done back in March, except that when I did this problem in March, it was done a slightly different way. And also there was an error that I made in the first segment of it. So, which made me go and create a second segment to explain what the error was. Now, first of all, I'm not going to redo the way it was done, and I failed the first time and worked it out later. But I strongly suggest you go and look at those two video segments where the error is there. Okay? So we have an assembly made of two pieces. There is a base here, which has a plane of symmetry like that, vertical plane of symmetry, and there is a wedge, which also has a plane of symmetry, and that wedge is supposed to fit into that slot, okay? And the alpha should match, obviously, and the height should match, and beta is a variable that's going to be changing also. So the design table is going to look like that. However, I would like to add additional columns here, additional columns which are the name of the base, the material of the base, the name of the wedge, and the material of the wedge. Incidentally, if you have a design table problem for a test or a final, I may or may not ask you to include name of the material, or the material type, or the name of the different parts. Okay, but you should be able to do it. All right, so let me start with CATIA. We're going to start with a product file because this is an assembly. And immediately we're going to save it. So File, Save Management, Save As, Desktop, New Folder. And I'm going to call it Assembly 1. Because there will be a second video clip that I'm going to be doing, and it's going to be under Assembly 2. All right, so anything that we do here is going to go into this folder. Now remember, there's going to be a product, there's going to be two parts, and there's going to be a design table. So there's 4 items that are going to go into that folder, and eventually, if this is a test, you submit that folder with 4 things in it. Okay, so let's see, insert a new part in there. Okay, it's called part 1, as you can see, right? And just so that I can keep track of things better, I'm going to rename this thing. Renaming means that I select the properties, and I go and, let me see now, let me make this thing bigger. Right, so the part name is this, which I'm going to call it wedge. And this is the instance name, so wedge. I have a habit of just changing both the name of the file, the name of the part, and the name of the instance. Okay, so now we're going to make that. So to make that, you have to get into part design. You're not in part design, so double click on the wedge. Now you're in part design on a convenient plane. On that vertical plane, I will sketch that thing that resembles the wedge, and I'm not going to be careful here because we can always fix these things, and we will in a minute. So something like that. And maybe even something like this. Oops, what was it? Right. Like so, and there. Okay, now this obviously is not symmetric, so we have to clean it up. So control left edge, control right edge, control the axis here, and we're going to make it symmetric. Okay. This point, or let's say this line, control that line, control the axis, also symmetric. Good. Okay, so let me see now. Let's vary this thing, make sure actually it is changing symmetrically. Yeah, and this thing goes up and down. Very good. Excellent. Okay, so let us dimension the stuff that we want to. So we want to dimension for this angle. And we want to dimension between this point and that point, or this edge actually, right click but the vertical dimension, because let me see what I did wrong. Control Z. Okay, let me actually do the angle one more time, dimension one more time, because I must have done something that is not working. Okay, so now dimension between this point and that point, and vertical dimension, vertical, there we are. Okay, so this is going to be H and this is going to be alpha. Exit and pad it. All right, now because we're going to be including material property in our design table, I might as well apply dummy material to this. So apply material, aluminum. This is a dummy material. Now, just be careful. And this is a mistake that I did in the previous version of this video. If I put it on this part, on this line, see that, this line? See this line? It's got two gears here, just like that. The material is going to be put on the part, not on the, on the assembly, not on the part. If I want to make the parts, the part has different materials, I should put this dummy material on the part right there, not there, because this is going to put on the assembly. So there. So this is going to be made of aluminum. Notice that it's right underneath the part. If I had put it over there, there would be a branch down here, which means that it's going to put it on the assembly. Okay, good. This thickness, the thickness of this is irrelevant. It's not one of our parameters anyways. Now, we go back to the assembly design. Make sure you click on the floppy. Only the product is saved. Once again, the part is also saved. So insert a new part. Okay, we want to call this thing not part. We want to call it the wedge. No, actually, oh sorry, I meant this thing to be the wedge. Okay, so let me fix this. Go back here. Right click properties. I made a mistake here. I want this thing to be the base. Okay. All right. And this thing to be the wedge. Right click properties, wedge, and wedge. And we say OK. And we make. Double click on the wedge. So now in part design, double click on this line. Now in part design, we make it. If this is bothering you, we can always hide it. It doesn't bother me. So on a convenient plane, on that vertical plane, I will draw the thing that looks like, you know, that wedge that I want, something like that. A couple of comments here. Notice that inadvertently, when I was doing this thing, these were made perpendicular to each other. I don't want it, so I can select that and delete it. Where is it? Delete. Okay. Now let's make it symmetric. So, for example, this edge control that edge, control the middle axis. We're going to make it symmetric. Good. And okay, this point or this control that, the middle axis, control middle axis, also symmetric. Now it's entirely symmetric. You can see that if you move this thing, it's going to move symmetrically. Okay, you can see that. Yeah, very good. Now eventually this guy is going to be equal to that, and this height is going to be equal to this height. So let's put dimensions that we want to be present. So that and this edge, eventually this is going to be equal to that angle, and the distance from this point to that point, but the vertical dimension, vertical distance, which eventually is going to be equal to that guy, which is also h. Exit. Oh, I forgot this thing on the top. This is also beta. It's one of our parameters. Let me show you. It's one of our parameters, beta. Okay. So let's go ahead and put a dimension there, and this fellow and that fellow. Exit and pad it. Okay, so this is same pad distance as that. Good. Now we put a material on this, dummy material on that. So apply material, metal, brass, some dummy material. Don't put it on this line. This is going to put it on the assembly. Put it on this line. There's a single gear here. It's part design. It's going to go on part right there. It's on part. Okay. Now let's see what have we got here. Okay, what was the second step? The next step in part design or design table for single part. It's going to be exactly the same thing for the present problem. Design table for an assembly. The first thing that you've got to remember, we have to rename stuff to make our job easier. So first, I better get out of the part. I don't want to be in the part. Double click on this so that you go into part design. If double clicking on that, assembly design. If you double clicking on that does not put you in the assembly design, just navigate from here, assembly design, and end up there. So we are in assembly design. Okay. Now, click on f of x. Clicking on f of x will give you everything that you have done in the product as far as dimensions and things like that. Look, if I click on the product, you're going to get dimensions of that and dimensions of that. If I click on the base, for example, I only get dimensions of the base. If I click on that, I only get dimensions of the wedge. But it's okay. So I'll click on this. Everything is going to be there. Now, this angle, if you click on this, notice that it picks it from the base. And it's an angle. Currently it's 84 degrees. I want to call this thing alpha. You remember that? Alpha. Apply. Good. But notice that when I do that, it also puts a base in front and slash, because this name, renaming, belongs to the base. You can see that because it's part of the base. There we are. This height, I'm going to call it big H. Apply. And again, notice that because it belongs to the base, it put base slash H. Okay. Now when I go and select this top guy on the top, this is in the wedge, and I want to call it beta. Apply. Okay. Now this guy, of course I can call it H, but the way we're going to do that is saying that this dimension is equal to that. Sure, because this is going to be my H, this is going to be equal to that, and therefore this is equal to H. So we select this, we say add a formula. I think my computer went to state of coma, or it came back. Okay, this dimension, which is right here, equal to that guy, which incidentally you can see it was renamed to be H. You can see that base H. Okay, and the same token, this angle, add a formula equal to that angle, which incidentally is base. Oh my God! I thought this was alpha, but anyway, I forgot the L. That's okay. Fine. Good. The only mistake so far is that instead of ALFA, alpha, I wrote down AFA. It can be changed, but that really doesn't change the essence of the tutorial. Okay, now, what else do we want to do? For example, if I click on this line and I say, okay, why don't you give me all the strings, if it makes my job easier, notice that this is the name of the base, which I can call it my base. My base. Remember how we renamed the part name when we were doing these things before? Apply. And this guy, we rename it to be my base material. I could have left it exactly like it is. It's just that in the Excel spreadsheet, the header line would have been base/material. I just renamed it. No big deal. Apply. And if you click on that fellow, this is the wedge. I'm going to call it. This is the material. So my wedge mat. I think that's what I called it. Apply. And if I select the name, I'm going to call it my wedge name. Apply. And OK. And now, here's the update. Because I made this angle equal to that angle and this height equal to that height, it says that this has to be updated. So I say update. There we are. These two now match. What was the next step in design table when I did it for a single part? After I renamed these things, I went to design table. Now, make sure that when you do this, when you go to design table, you are at the assembly level. Do not create your design table at the part level. Not at the part level. Not at the part level. At the assembly level. Which means the safest way is to make sure this is double gear. Okay? So you click on design table. We're going to create our design table. You're going to say OK. And the easiest way, because we renamed it, is to you say rename parameter, and let's do it in the order that I want. For example, base name, base material, wedge name, wedge material, and then it's going to be H, and then alpha, and then beta. And then you say OK. It says, where do you want to put it? Well, I want to put it in the same folder that I saved my assembly, which is assembly 1. Let's give it time. Remember, when you submit your work for marking, you must have the product, both parts, and the design table. And there we are. You can see that? Right. OK. Base name, base material, wedge name, wedge material, parameter H, parameter alpha, this one not supposed to be AFA, parameter beta. And then we say edit table, just like part design. And then you populate your table. Okay, let's make this thing bigger so that we can see what's going on. Yeah, that's good. We can see what you're typing in. Let me make these things bigger. Are we good? Okay. All right. Where did that go? Populated. I think that's the end, alpha and beta. Good, good, good. Okay, so base. I'll call it I'll call it B001. Made out of gold. Wedge name W002 or 001. Whatever name you want to give it. And then we make this thing out of steel. Now, the height H, we make it 1 inch. The angle, I'll make it 90 degrees. Angle alpha, I'll make it 90 degrees. And the angle beta, I make it, let's say, 30 degrees. Remember, if you put random numbers here, you may be running into trouble. So, B002, material silver. W002. Material, iron. Okay, so base or the H, I'll make it 0.5. The angle, I'll make it 30 degrees for alpha. And the angle beta, I'll make it 90 degrees. I think yeah, 90 degrees right there. Make this thing bigger so that we can see what we typed here. Okay, good. Let's do another row. B002, 3. Iron. W means wedge. 003. Copper. How about making this thing 1.5? The angle alpha, we make it, I don't know, 60 degrees. And angle beta, how about 10 degrees? Okay, we may have to come back and revise some of these in case we put bad numbers in there. And we close it. We wait until the report pops up. No mistakes. Okay, there we are. So let's see what happens. I will put assembly constraints in a minute, but I'll leave it the way it is right now just to make sure everything is working fine. So we go to the next row. Notice that the names changed according to my description in the table. The base is called 001. The wedge is called W001. Materials, let's make sure we got the correct material. Material for the base is gold, and for the wedge is steel. You can see that. And you say apply, and since my automatic update is not automatic, I click on this to update automatically. There, see this angle is the same as that angle. This height is the same as that height, and this angle is the same as 30 degrees. You go to the next row. Notice that the material for the base is now silver. Material for the wedge is iron. And apply and update. There we are, you see? This guy fits perfectly inside of that slot. And finally, the last one. Apply and update. There we are. Are we good? So we can solve an assembly design table problem just like we did before. The only thing you have to watch out is that when you create your design table, it must be at the assembly level. Let me close this thing for a second. Let me close that for a second. Now, suppose I want to get back to my design table. Oh, wait a minute, it's not there. Those design tables, the design table was created at the assembly level. So I have to see it somewhere. It's not showing. It's not showing. You can see that. It's not there. So I mentioned this thing in my crash course on CAD settings. I'll say it again. Here's what you do. Tools, options, infrastructure. See that? Infrastructure. Product infrastructure. And then you scroll all the way down. You take the last tab on the top. Tree customization. You see that? Relations. It says no. You want to activate it. You select it and say activate it. I don't have any parameters, so that's okay. So we say okay. You see? Right there. We have two equations. Remember I made this equal to that at the assembly level and this height equal to that height at the assembly level. They're there. And the design table is also there. You double click on it and you can go to the other rows and select it accordingly. Select, what is that? And update, where's the update? Well, update, remember it used to be down here. The only problem is not there because I'm not even in assembly. This is not assembly. So if you want to update it, I suppose you go here. You can do it from here. Or you go to the assembly design and update it. I'm pretty sure this is going to work. Right there. You see that? Right there. Design table goes here. Next one, apply, update, right there. All right. This is critical for you to be able to see. That must be created at the assembly level, and you must be able to display it. And I showed you how to do that. Tools, options, infrastructure, product infrastructure, the tab on the type, the very last one, and make sure the relations is activated. Okay, save everything. Your product is saved, the two parts are saved, and your design table is there. Now, and those 4 things you submitted as your test or final exam to be marked. One thing I want to show you is the following. This is very common. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to go to that folder. This is not part of the presentation that I'm doing, but it's important for you to see what happens. If you go to one of these things, and let's try to rename one of these. Rename it with the Microsoft way. So select it, this part, right-click, rename, and I'm going to call this thing to be, for example, how about new W003 part. Okay? Change that. And let me now try to open the product. You see, it says I can't find it. So just renaming, see that? Remember I made it new something? It says, wait a minute. Although the file is there, but because you changed it, it doesn't know that it's sitting there. So it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea to do these things, and the last minute you go to this to your part names and change it to problem 3, problem 3, problem 3, because if you don't know it properly, you will lose track of it. So let me put this thing back to what it was. Don't put the new in front of those. Close it. Now if I start the product, everything is there. Okay, folks. I will do one more video clip on design table for assemblies, and you're on your own.